ولا نوم لهما في السماوات وما.
Horror fans don't care much for the language of the movie as long as the fear factor is preserved in the narrative. For the Western audience, Turkish horror has delivered numerous hits over the years, and the Daba franchise is a great example of the successful stint. This is the fourth movie in the series, and it brings to the fore a terrifying supernatural entity in the Islamic world, the jinn. Through a spine-chilling story, the movie ensures a few sleepless nights for the viewers, and in this video, we will conduct a detailed breakdown of the movie and also explore the implications of the shocking climax. There will be some major spoilers along the way, so you have been warned. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How does the movie set up the premise with a skeptic and an exorcist? The opening scene in the movie is a grim reminder of what is about to come, and the narrative surely doesn't hold back when it comes to delivering the scary moments. Things start off with an unnerving exorcism sequence that is being conducted by Farooq Hoja. He is in a house and trying to extract a jinn from a possessed woman as her family watches in horror. The whole event is documented by a psychology student named Abru, who is filming everything as part of her research on paranormal activities. She explains in the video that there is reportedly a 1,300-year-old jinn that has possessed the girl, and Farooq goes through with the process of exorcism. He recites certain verses of the Quran, but it only causes the lady to curse everyone and go completely out of control. Farooq manages to restrain her, and later, he successfully concludes the exorcism, following which the girl recovers. During the process, he claims to have found some strange objects that came out of the girl's mouth, but even though he shows the objects on camera, Abru still suspects that he is simply a hoax. She also doesn't believe in jinns for that matter, and in order to prove her point, she heads out to Farooq's place the next day. She sets up cameras in his house and openly calls him a fraud. In order to prove himself, she challenges him to treat a patient who also happens to be her old friend and cousin. This is a young lady named Kubra, and she has reportedly experienced a harrowing jinn possession. Abru asks Farooq to treat her and heal her condition if he is truly a skilled exorcist, and he takes up the challenge. What is Kubra's entire story? How does the exorcism journey begin for Farooq and Abru? After Farooq agrees to exorcise Kubra, both Abru and Farooq set out for her village. It is quite a long journey, and by nightfall they still haven't reached it. They get out of their car and try to ask some people for directions to the village, but one of them gets really riled up when he hears the name of the village. After getting attacked by a random man for simply asking for directions, Farooq and Abru find themselves stranded on a deserted road. They get intimidated by a red-eyed entity in the nearby fields, and there are too many bad omens suggesting that it is a horrible idea to delve further into the matter. It almost seems like something is trying to stop them at every stage from reaching the village. They even come across a mysterious tree with 7175 engraved on it, and there are some unexplained hanging dolls around the area. Finally, they stumble upon a local guide who tells them about the exact route to the village. But even this turns out to be a creepy encounter when they come across the guide again after a while, and this time he is walking with a creepy entity. When Abru and Farooq reach Kubra's residence, they are greeted by Refika and her daughter. However, Refika's sister Fatima is not too pleased about Abru documenting the whole thing. As the guests are hosted for dinner by Kubra's family, we finally get to know about the gory details of Kubra's alleged possession. Unfortunately for the young lady, she got possessed by a jinn on the day of her wedding, and the video of the wedding reveals the horrors of the possession. Kubra grabbed a knife in the middle of all the celebrations and she stabbed her husband. Later, she had to spend a couple of years at the mental institution, but she never got jail time for her crime because it was clearly a psychological disorder deemed by law. Another noticeable aspect about Kubra's possession is how she keeps repeating the number 7175 while she is possessed. It is also revealed by the family that on the fateful night of Kubra's possession, she had run off to the tree that we saw earlier with 7175 engraved on it. Now, back to the present, Farouk starts off by examining the entire house, and he spots Kubra standing near a window and staring him down. Clearly, this deadly game of possession is going to be much tougher than he has anticipated. Can Farouk's exorcism cure Kubra? What are the methods used in the exorcism? After a brief and eerie meeting between Kubra, Abru, and Farouk, the exorcism process is all set to begin and Farouk prepares Kubra for the same. He performs a ritual where he sprinkles some liquid on her hand, which can be some form of holy water. When Kubra brings her hands closer to her mouth, the ground starts to shake violently and Kubra is possessed once again, just like her wedding day. Farouk tries to cover her with a cloth, and soon, writing in blood appears on his hand. When he translates it to mean mirror, it gives a quick hint about the next ritual. However, before he can continue with the ritual further, something strange happens with Abru the next day at breakfast. While everyone is busy eating, she takes something strange out of her mouth, which seems to be hair. That evening, the next set of rituals are set in motion and Farouk sits in a room with a mirror and tries to establish contact with the jinn. He also puts a black scarf around him because it apparently attracts the jinn, but all of a sudden the scarf is removed from his body and the mirror shatters into pieces. Meanwhile, a symbol can be seen formed in the corner of the room, and Farouk reveals that the symbol is related to a toilet spell. Based on his hunch, Farouk breaks down the toilet in the house, and excavations reveal strange and creepy objects underneath. From a cow's head to a creepy doll, these objects cause panic in the family, and by now, it can be said with certainty that this is no ordinary possession. When Farouk examines the objects more intently, he finds out a spell that has Refika and her husband's name written on it. It turns out to be a long-drawn curse, which was cast on Kubra the moment she was born. According to this curse, when Kubra reaches the age of 23, a jinn will take over her soul, and her wedding day happened to be on her 23rd birthday, which resulted in the bloody consequence of the curse. In the middle of all these shocking revelations, Kubra reappears in a possessed state, and Farouk tries to resume the exorcism once again. He threatens the jinn to leave her body and sets all the spells and black magic objects on fire. This causes another mini-earthquake, and the jinn seems to have left Kubra's body for the time being. However, everyone's relief ends up being short-lived, and Kubra gets possessed once again later that night. She emerges from her room and attacks Fatima with a knife, which leads to some pretty serious injuries. A search for her leads Farouk to the tree, and he finds Kubra standing there in her possessed state. The jinn speaks through her and ridicules Farouk's efforts. It claims that it will keep coming back even if the exorcism process is continued thousands of times. To make matters worse, it is also time for some internal conflict, and all the ruckus has somehow convinced Abru that Farouk is a fraud. She leaves angrily after accusing him, but Farouk continues his investigations. It still isn't clear if Kubra can be cured permanently, but surely it will take a miraculous effort to keep the jinn away. What is the real dark secret of Kubra's family? Reason behind the possession unearthed. Farouk is determined to cure Kubra, and his next course of action is a thorough interaction with Fatima, who is all bandaged up after Kubra's violent attack on her. She spills some crucial pieces of information about Kubra's father Bilal, who once used to be a poor man. He went from rags to riches overnight, and Fatima tells Farouk about a man named Ilyas from Kildare village who knows more about this. Meanwhile, Abru and Farouk also seem to have reached an uneasy truce, and the two set out in search of Ilyas. This is where you will witness one of the creepiest moments in this movie as they look through an abandoned village that looks quite scary in the dark. Finally, they come across Ilyas, and he is revealed to be the same guide they met earlier while heading for Kubra's house. When asked about the abandoned village, Ilyas tells them all about how the greed of the two men destroyed the entire village. These two men were Kubra's father, Bilal, and Abru's father, Ramiz, who comes as a shocker for a clueless Abru. Since both Bilal and Ramiz sought overnight riches, they summoned a powerful jinn named Sarah and unearthed hidden treasure from the land of Kildare. However, they betrayed the jinn after getting their hands on the treasure and buried Sarah under the evil tree. Their actions had a terrible consequence on both of them because they were eventually killed by vengeful jinns from Sarah's tribe, and the curse has followed the family since then. Abru was spared because her family moved away, but Kubra was not so lucky. Ilyas comes up with another shocking revelation when he tells them about his wife, who is also a jinn, and they even have a deformed child together. On their way out to their car after being overwhelmed by all this information, Abru is horrified to find blood all across their vehicle. Finally, they seem to have found a potential solution to this tricky situation in a book. There is a chance that if they remove Sarah's jinn from the tree and bury it elsewhere, it might break the curse for good. Farouk goes through with what is his last ritual, and smoke can be seen rising from the ground where the greedy parents had buried Sarah. When they get back home, Kubra's family spins a web of lies and claims that Farouk needs to leave because of an urgent call. However, they are keen on keeping Abru with them for a while longer. The same night, Abru comes to another terrifying realization when she finds hidden spells in her clothes. One of these spells contains her picture alongside Kubra, and someone seems to be summoning the dark forces on her in this house. Meanwhile, Farouk identifies the meaning of the number 7175, which briefly translates to "I am alive." In yet another twist in the narrative, it is revealed that this number is used as a proof of existence for jinns who are still alive. Basically, Sarah, who was trapped in the dirt, was not dead at all. In case a living jinn is released, it becomes much more powerful, and unknowingly, that is precisely what Farouk and Abru have done. Will Abru be included in the jinn curse? Ending explained. Is it based on a true story? The final moments of the movie are so powerful and hold so many terrifying moments that you will remember the epic climax for quite some time. It all starts with a major jump scare when a bloodied Ilyas appears outside his car and accuses Farouk of messing things up badly. He claims that the jinn has now been set free and warns Farouk that Abru's life is now in grave danger. He also tells them that Kubra's mother and sister have successfully performed some sort of black magic on Abru so that Sarah's jinn can be transferred to her body. All this while, things take a nightmarish turn for Abru back in Kubra's house. She is captured forcefully and taken with them, and by the time Farouk arrives, it is already too late and she is gone. He does find a ritual that elaborates on how to bury her alive, and he rushes out in desperation looking for her. Unfortunately, he falls inside a well and is knocked out after Kubra's mother and sister throw rocks at him. Meanwhile, Abru is buried alive along with several live snakes, according to the ritual, and her cries for help fall on deaf ears. At this point, the screen cuts to black, and you can only assume the worst for the protagonists. There is one last brain twister at the end of the movie, and in the credits, we learn that the film is based on a true story. According to the actual story, Abru was never found again, and Farouk was rescued the next morning, but he had permanent brain damage and no substantial memory of all that happened. Kubra's family escaped to the village the same night, and they were never heard from again. We couldn't have hoped for a better ending than the uncertainty of a real-life story haunting the narrative further. Everything you need to know about jinn. Can jinns reproduce with humans? Given that the movie manages to send a few shivers down your spine, we see surprisingly little of the primary antagonist, the titular jinn. This is because these demonic creatures in Islam are invisible and notorious shapeshifters, and we usually see them in some other form or possessing someone. According to Islamic belief, jinn is neither innately evil nor good, but seeking their protection or benefits is forbidden. There are multiple jinn in their world, and sometimes people strike a bargain with them for wealth and prosperity. In return, the price to pay is often something that they hold dear, and the sacrifice is not worth the materialistic wealth. Unless they are summoned, jinn is usually away from human affairs, even though there is mention of jinn engaging in sexual affairs with humans and producing offspring, which we even see in this movie. Overall, jinn is associated with greed and other human vices, and staying on the right path and wearing something with the name of God on it can deter the jinn from coming one's way. Marvelous verdict. A truly terrifying experience. Genuinely good horror movies are hard to come by, so when they do, we grab them with both hands. Daba, Curse of the Jinn is one of the rare, well-made horror movies that doesn't leave out loose ends and delivers the chills just like the fans seek. The lore is rich, and so is the backstory, and you are never left wondering about the context. The filmmaking is top-notch, and the director, who happens to be a horror veteran, knows how to titillate the viewers and keep them on the edge of their seats. The shaky cam, footage-style visuals work wonders for the narrative and add to the mysterious touch. The acting performances are commendable as well, and the runtime of 2 hours never really feels stretched out unnecessarily. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on the movie, and also share your knowledge of jinns if you happen to know more about these powerful supernatural entities. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe out there. Thanks, everyone.